Scenario questions in interviews are often inevitable, especially for roles like the Scrum Master role. And there are many different ways to answer them because often there is no right answer. So, how do you answer them like a pro? And what do you do actually in those situations in real life? Watch this video to learn how to answer 5 scenario questions about the Scrum Master role. Hey, it's Daria here. Welcome. Let's build some awesome teams. So I think you've noticed that I have a little decoration right behind me. I know that the last video I didn't have anything behind, so it kind of felt a little bit empty. So now I have some plants behind, just as I have with my home studio, though these ones are not real. So let's get back into the video. Okay. So a few weeks ago, I made a video on some interview questions for Scrum Masters, and, well, you all loved it. If you haven't watched it, by the way, you can go and watch it now. I'm going to put the link somewhere here and in the description, of course. One of the things I mentioned there was that the big part of the interview will be based on some scenario questions. But I didn't go into details on those questions more specifically. So in this video, I want to give you some example scenarios that you might very well face in real life working as a Scrum Master. Here is the kicker though. There are so many variations of situations, team dynamics, organizational structures, and more that exist out there that you will most likely find scenarios that you have never faced before. And I don't think there is any professional who has lived through all of the possible situations that may happen in a Scrum team. There's always something new and unexpected, but no matter. As an Agile leader and a Scrum Master, you need to know how to address these situations, even if you've never faced them yourself. I'll talk about some general advice first, so if you are just interested in the questions, skip through it. I'm going to put the chapters in the description right down below so you can jump right into those questions. You might be thinking, if there are so many variations, how would you even learn the right answer? Well, this is where it gets tough. There is no right answer. Yes, I mentioned this before, but I want to talk a bit more about it here. When you are faced with a challenge, there are multiple options that will immediately become available to you. Often, multiple approaches will work, and this will depend on your facilitation and teaching style, on your relationships with the team, on team dynamics, on organizational agility, and more. There sometimes will be an approach that is immediately wrong, as it will only make things worse. That's the one you should avoid generally, of course, always really, but it is usually extremely obvious. Like if you see a bull charging right at you, don't just stand there hoping it would stop. Run, hide, or go for an attack yourself. I have no idea why that was the first metaphor that came to me, but here you go. You got the point, right? Since there are various ways to approach a situation, what are some of the choices that are available to you? There are a few that you can always rely on, but the very first choice to make is whether you're going to do something or do nothing. Do something would mean that you decide to intervene in the situation. It may involve you giving advice, supporting or guiding, or doing an essential action yourself. Do nothing means that you let the situation unfold, but why would you do nothing? Well, it might be a situation that doesn't actually require your involvement and will be better addressed by the team itself. You may decide to go with this choice if you want to help your team self-manage and maybe even learn from their own mistakes. Technically, when you opt to do nothing, what it really means is that you decide to observe and analyze instead. You take your time to see what is happening and make decisions on what could be the next step. So it's kind of doing nothing and not really. If you want to learn more about the topic of self-organization, check out my video on Scrum Master role in self-organization. I'm going to put the link in the description, and somewhere here will be the link as well. Once you have decided to intervene and do something, there are a few things you can do once again, and the choice is yours. You can, first, teach by providing some straightforward information on the topic and how exactly the team can address it. Coach by asking questions and guiding people towards solutions that can work for them. Mentor by sharing your past experiences in similar situations. Facilitate a discussion or a meeting necessary as a result of the situation at hand. Direct people towards the solution that most likely will work for them. And act on your own to resolve the situation by addressing it directly. This may involve many things. I also have a video on the differences between teaching, coaching, and mentoring in case you wanted to learn more about it. And as always, I'm going to put the link in the description and somewhere here. It might so happen that you would decide to use several choices available to you based on the situation at hand. Okay, enough of that. Let's actually talk about some scenarios. I will present you the scenario and then I'll answer how I would answer in real life situation. Well, I'm trying to make it as real life as possible, kind of imagining myself sitting in an interview and talking to an interviewer. Scenario 1, decreasing velocity. Your team's velocity has been gradually decreasing in the past few sprints, but they have not mentioned any issues to you. Should you be concerned? Well, that's not a lot of information to go on, so the first thing for me to do would be to figure out what's going on. The big question here is the team actually delivering value every sprint? Decreasing velocity may be an indication of a problem, but it also might not really be an indication of a problem. For example, if the team is getting more accustomed to the product and more confident when working with it, their estimates most likely will go down, which will impact their velocity, making it lower, going down. But there also might be some of external dependencies that prevent the team from completing the same amount of work as before, or even something, kind of natural for natural reasons, like during the flu season, there will be many team members who would be getting sick at the same time, for example. So my approach would be first to figure out what is actually wrong and if there is something wrong. In addition, I wouldn't be as concerned with the velocity itself. This is really just a metric to help the team plan. It doesn't really represent value or team performance. It may be more useful to look at some other metrics like cycle time, number of defects, team health index, and more. Scenario 2, nothing in the product backlog. Your team constantly struggles at the beginning of every sprint because their product is empty, and the product backlog doesn't have time to update it. They waste time getting the information from him. What do you do? That is quite concerning if the product owner is absent. There are a few things to figure out here, though. I would need to speak to the product owner to understand why they don't have time for the team regularly. It might be that they don't really understand their role and how much time they need to dedicate to the product backlog management and to the team. And in this case, I would need to do some teaching and coaching. The product owner might also be spread too thin. And then the question is whether they are actually the right person to play the role of the product owner. We would need to have someone who can work closely with the team, and if they are too busy doing something else, and this is where the most value lies for them, another person may be a better fit. One more thing that comes to mind is if our product owner is actually a proxy, as in they always need to ask someone else for the approval or additional information, and that is what's taking so much time. There definitely will be some opportunities for knowledge transfer and delegation as well. Then I'm also thinking about the product backlog refinement. Is it even happening? And if it is happening, then how productive is it? And then does the product owner actually attend those? There might be some improvements we can implement around regular refinements, for example, that can help solve the situation. Scenario 3, dependency on another team. Your team is unable to deliver because they have a huge dependency on another team that has to do some pre-work before your team can start. How do you manage the situation? Firstly, I'd like to understand the process better. Why does this dependency even exist? What causes it? Is it the lack of knowledge or skills on the team? Is it a strict approval process, not permitting the team to do the pre-work themselves? Is it just the way it was always done before and that's why we keep doing it? To understand that, I will most likely need to facilitate a discussion between my team and the other team to create alignment. Based on the reason, we can find an appropriate solution to that. For example, if the team is lacking knowledge or skills, we need to organize some knowledge transfer activities. Maybe there are opportunities for pair programming, or maybe better documentation can help. Maybe even a simple training session will suffice, like a lunch and learn. If the issue is the process itself, then we would need to go back to the drawing board, I think, with everyone involved in the process to identify how we can optimize it to remove this dependency. This might include not only my team, well, the Scrum team, and the other team that we are dependent on, but we may need management, maybe even people from other departments who are either involved in the process or in some way are impacted by that process. Scenario 4, daily Scrum is awful. Your team has been complaining about the daily Scrum being really just a waste of time. It's practically the product owner and the team lead talking to each other for 30 minutes. What's your approach? The whole point of the daily Scrum is for the developers to inspect their progress towards the sprint goal and to plan their day. Neither the product owner nor the team lead are even mandatory participants in the daily Scrum unless they are also playing the role of the developers themselves. My main question would be, what are they doing in the daily Scrum? There might be the need for them to have their own regular meeting with each other, regular discussion, but it would happen in a different meeting. It definitely should happen in a different meeting. So my first instinct is to limit the daily Scrum to the developers only. And if the product owner and the team lead really want to attend, then they can only observe and are not allowed to speak, even to ask questions. And then I would work with the developers to help them make their daily more productive by first explaining the purpose of the daily Scrum and giving them some tips on how to organize it. But then I would really let them figure out how they want to do it on their own once they are no longer kind of held hostage by the product owner and the team lead. Scenario 5, manager wants to attend the sprint retrospective. The manager of the team is anxious about how the team is doing and asks you to invite him into your retrospective from now on so that he knows what problems there are. How do you respond? Firstly, why is the manager anxious? There must be a reason for him to be stressed about the team's performance or something else. So the first thing for me to do is to discuss with the manager in more detail what information exactly is he trying to get from the retrospective. There might be other ways to get that information in a more appropriate manner. I would also explain that the retrospective really is a team internal meeting where no external people are invited, especially managers. It has to be a safe environment where people feel free to speak up and raise concerns. Having a manager in the room may have a negative impact on it, so the team members might hold back or refrain from bringing the real issues to the table, so the retrospective will become kind of much less productive and a bit useless. I would also check with the team if they are willing to share their retrospective notes with the manager. However, if they don't feel comfortable doing so, then I must respect their decision. Okay, that's it. That was the last scenario I wanted to share. Of course, these are just examples of what can wait for you in the interviews and during your job as well. If you're looking for guidance and help on this, check out my store for guides, templates, and online programs, including mentorship. I share all of my secrets and ideas with you and give you practical tips on how to address challenging situations. I hope that you learned something new, and if you did, remember to like this video and comment down below. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Click that subscribe button right now for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers and Scrum on!